Hi there, and welcome to Diaries of a Demented DM. In this video, we'll be continuing the Dragon Age series that we started in our last couple of videos, where I analysed the Dragon Age Roleplaying Game by Green Ronin Publications, based upon the Bioware Dragon Age game series. Before I continue, I would like to say a spoiler alert for Dragon Age's Origins, Awakenings, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition, the main ones in the series, as this game considers choices which you may make in the game, as Dragon Age, as we all know, is a game of choice and consequence with your characters. This role-playing game was made with certain choices in mind, so if you haven't played the games, I would suggest that you stop watching and actually give them a go. They're rich in story, lore, and you will meet some of the most incredible characters and voice actors ever. So continuing on with our role-playing game, I will give you the basic information about the adventurers in this role-playing game. I have 4 adventurers next to me as the game master. The 4 characters are all friends of mine, except for one who is my fiancée. Always fabulous. The 4 characters are Lam, Ram, Mervic, and Magnus Opus. Magnus Opus being a Qunari played by my fiancé Chris. He is a member of the Qun, the central government of the Qunari. He is on a reconnaissance for the Ben Hassara to see whether or not people in Ferelden are actually worth invading. So most of the time he spent his way in the campaign running around going, are they a threat? No. Maybe. Then we have Mervic, who is a dwarf of Orzammar. He is originally part of a mining caste in Orzammar. A merchant's caste. He was he decided to come to the surface, unlike many dwarves, because he believed that the sky was just another roof, and he wanted to reach for the stars as well. And since he was going out that way anyway, he decided to expand his family's merchant trade above the surface. That's how we ran into our party members. Then third are Lam and Ram, a very unusual pairing. Mervic was played by my friend Dudley, who is also good friends with Lam and Ram's role players, who are Cal and Jenny. Cal is the Baron, another YouTuber, who's got a brilliant channel. If you want to find it, check the description below. I recommend a good visit. Lam and Ram, played by Cal and his wife Jenny, the Baroness. They play... Ram is a Qunari, a Vashoth, who was born outside of the Qun, but he has ambitions to return to it, which was a good reason that he probably met Magnus. He is a big berserker, a big warrior. He loves to throw his big axe around. Whereas Lam is, as her name suggests, to be a little meek, but she's not. She is a Dalish elf. I believe she was a runaway Dalish elf. I'll have to double check. She is the rogue of the party. Strange enough, a party without a mage. In Dragon Age, that's quite unheard of. As a rogue, she favours the bow, being as an elf. Her and Ram are actually romantically linked, based upon a pair that a role-playing pair Cal and Jenny put together a long time ago that they really wanted to act out in this role-playing game. Fair enough. So, as far as I'm aware, though, they aren't Kadan, so they haven't exchanged the Dragon Tooth, as you've seen in Dragon Age Inquisition, if you decide to romance the Iron Bull. So, so we had the 4 characters, Mervic, Magnus Opus, Lam and Ram. I'll go into a bit about the backstory of the campaign now. I set it just after the end of Dragon Age Awakening. And in this scenario, the architect, who you can potentially kill at the end of Awakening, it has died in this situation, along with the mother. And Phaedus is just starting to get itself back on its feet after the effects of the Blight, which was ended in Dragon Age Origins, and also the effect of Darkspawn in Northern Ferelden in the Arlship of Aberenthin. In this situation, I had the characters brought to the capital in Orlais to come and see they were all summoned by a rather official-looking note to come and visit to attend a private parlour in the grand city of Valroyo in Orlais. So in the first session, I had them all come up here. It was, as you can expect, Valroyo is beautiful. It is the epitome of high society in think French Renaissance. Everyone is really aristocratic. Every manner is observed. Any slip, any drop in manner or slight is a hideous mistake that could lead to you being shamed for years on end. As if you've played Wicked Minds for Wicked Hearts, it's dancing the great game in Orlais is a rat's nest that you really don't want to do. So anyway, they went into Valroyo, and I was asked right before the start of the session, what date was it that they arrived in Valroyo? I just thought, and I randomly selected Friday. Bad choice, apparently. Because from his meticulous research that Cal loves to do in his role-playing games, he reminded me that from a line from Dragon Age Inquisition in which Iron Bull apparently refers to No Pants Friday in the Qun, even though he's not a part of it. So, if you can imagine, you had a Dalish elf, an Orzammar dwarf, and 2 Qunari stripped to nothing but their small clothes, walking into the centre of high society in Orlais. It was a scandalous thing, but it was hilarious at the same time, if you can imagine that. So fast forwarding on, they are seen through reluctantly to this parlour, and because this was my first game in Dragon Age, I wanted to give it a little bit of grandeur and just start off quite strong with the questmaster. So they are introduced to 3 hooded figures who come in wearing chantry robes, and these 3 people turn out to be Divine Justinia V, the current head of the Andrastrian Chantry, which is the big religious organisation in both Ferelden and Orlais, and her left and right hand, Leliana and Seeker Cassandra Pentagast. These 2 characters, you will know if you've played the games, are quite renowned. So, the characters are briefed about the efforts to restore Ferelden and Orlais following the Blight, although Orlais wasn't as badly hit as Ferelden. The Divine had received reports of increased activity from the awakened Darkspawn left in the wake of the Architect and the Mother. And she wanted a reconnaissance group to investigate discreetly on behalf of the Divine. She didn't want to have her hand seen straight into it, and she didn't want Leliana's Leliana's spies or the main troops of the Chantry and Templars to be pulled up with this kind of thing, as they were too busy, again, with the relief efforts for the Blight, and also the potential insurgency building up across the Waking Sea in the Free Marches. A bit about that later. So, after a bit of negotiation, in which both Mervic and Ram were able to negotiate a reward of such a big reward that I wasn't actually expecting it, but then again they rolled amazingly well on their dragon dice, and thanks to a couple of the stunts which I didn't realise at the time, they really pushed for a large amount of gold at the end of it. So with that set, they all walked out of Valroyo, because they first had to go, well, they didn't walk out of Valroyo, sorry, they went across to the White Spire, which is the headquarters of the Templars, and also the home of the Circle of Magi for Central Orlais. Once inside, they meet a budding a budding elvish mage who is researching the Darkspawn, who is being funded by a informant within the Winter Palace itself. So directly from the hand of the Emperor. So again, a reason why the Chantry was trying to get involved in this. She informs the party that these Darkspawn have been carrying artifacts. One of these was a ring that she had managed to procure. She wanted the party to go and investigate other sightings of awakened Darkspawn and see if any more of these artifacts were going to be found, or if they led to anything in the Architect's wake, because if they could find one of the Architect's labs, they could discover it a whole much more and understand the Darkspawn a little bit better. So, the party agreed, they all leave, although the exit from Bioware was a little bit different from the way in, because as they were now in the Divine's employ, they wanted to try and move discreetly. A little difficult when you've got two Qunari in their small clothes. So they started sneaking their way through the back boutiques and bits. One of the shopkeepers was so horrified that she literally tore the curtains from her establishment and wrapped the two Qunari as best as she could in what you could say was a passable garment. They looked horrific, and she said that she would never be able to show her face in public again for at least the next 10 years. It was laughs after laughs after laughs, but what do you expect? So they were led to the edge of Val Royeaux, and they walked out to a waiting caravan which had been arranged for them by Seeker Pentagast and Leliana, who met them both at the caravan. Leliana was to accompany them only a short way because she was going to catch a ship from the docks of Val Royeaux to go ahead to Kirkwall in the Free Marches to apparently investigate on the Divine's behalf a rising insurgency there, which, if we play the games, we know is what led eventually to the Mage Templar War, which is prominent in Dragon Age Inquisition. But Seeker Pentagast was meant to stay with them up until Vigil's Keep, where they were going to separate, as Cassandra was going to go ahead to Amarenfin and catch a ship there across the Waking Sea. So Cassandra stays with the party through the caravan journey, heading east towards Ferelden. It was here that we had our first combat, with bandits attacking the caravans as you would do in the wilds. There's big trouble in the dales and coming up from the forests in the south. This was our first experience with combat in the role-playing game. It didn't go, obviously, quite as well as I'd expected, because I hadn't quite got my handle around the system yet. I didn't really know how to use the stunts for combat, but everything was based off straight rolls, like you would expect in Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, that kind of thing. You just had to roll to hit the DC. This went pretty well. They were able to take them out, although there were some pretty heavy hits. It was after this that I discovered that if you rolled doubles on the dice and you were able to use your dragon die to determine how many stunt points you had, that you could perform some of these amazing feats like Mighty Blow, lightning attacks, and in future combats that made things a lot more fun. So continuing on, they reached the mountains that border Orlais and Ferelden, and I decided that the only way to cross it was to head up and to cross through the mountain settlement of Haven, a prominent town again in Origins and in Inquisition. In this town, after travelling there for so long, they are put up in the Chantry thanks to Seeker Pentagast, and they just the party takes a chance to rest, restock, because there is a small blacksmith and a small alchemist up there. There is also a group of Templars there who were tracking a group of mages that had fled from the tower in Ferelden. Some of them were believed to be Maleficarum or blood mages. This led to another combat later on where the mages insurged on Haven, and they decided to summon a few demons. The party faced off against two minor mages and a rage demon. I wanted to see how demons really affected in this, and compared to some of the other creatures, they were quite powerful. But for a team of 4, the challenge rating was pretty spot on, and they were able to take it out with not too much damage to themselves. After that, the Templars handled the rest of them, and the thing ended in a great celebration inside the very small Haven Tavern, which then degraded into fisticuffs for bets by Ram and the lead Templar. All the while, as everyone was cheering for this delightful little escapade, the Dwarf and the Rogue, Mervic and Lamb, decided to go around and cut everyone's coin purses, to the enjoyment of many, and also to the boost to the party funds. That was when we ended that session. Then the session that followed, we had Lamb. Unfortunately, Chris wasn't able to join us for that session, so I had to basically say that Magnus had drunk a little bit too much. Ram was consistently asking for Morag Lock, I believe that's how you say it, which is a very heavy Qunari spirit wherever he went, and tried to make sure he got a supply of it wherever he went. So I said that Magnus had a little bit too much and he was currently unconscious, or suffering an extremely bad hangover. Cue the morning after. Ram and Mervic decided to get from the top of the hill to the bottom where Cassandra was waiting. They decided to ride Magnus down like a sled. Yes, poor Magnus took a decent hit from this, but at the same time he was also... it didn't really do too much to his memory. He would wake up several days later when the campaign resumed. But with the other characters, they moved down into Ferelden, things got warmer again, and for Ferelden, I used the map that is used in the game is very scarce with Ferelden. There are several major settlements, so I used a fan-made role-playing match, which has a lot more smaller settlements spaced out around the Kingdom of Ferelden. I'll include the link to this image in the map below if anyone else considers it, so it gives you a little bit more to work with and distances. So I got the characters to move through the along the main route heading east across, and they eventually reached a small town called Salmonhead, which was on the river. It was at this point that Magnus rejoined the party. In a sense, he was still a little bit out. And the party settled in. There was another bar brawl here. Again, this part, what do you expect with 2 Qunari? But the party stocked up. They gathered up a few things. I believe they also picked up another travel mount to allow them to move faster, with Cassandra assisting with the purchase, and they continued east and eventually came to a small town on the cove of Lake Galahad. And it's here that that we get close to where we currently are. In this, they were warned in Salmonhead that there had been a little bit of carter activity around here. So the dwarven gangs, basically, who hide out of tykes and then attack the surface dwellers, basically. So they arrive in this town. Cassandra sets them up at an inn, and they all go about and discover bits about the town, but they all decide to meet with the lawmaster of the town to ask about this. Again, they negotiate a very incredible price for the job of hire of dealing with the carter. So they scurry around, and eventually they head back to their own inn. And in that inn, they find a member of the carter who is meeting with what appears to be a mage. one of the mages of the tower on the western bank, the Circle of Magi for Ferelden. This mage turns out to be a blood mage, and there is a whole skirmish inside the tavern at this point, where I actually got to experiment with blood magic for the first time, and it's compared to some of the other schools of magic, it is quite brutal to what it can do to an entire party. Nearly wiped out one character. The party was eventually able to subdue both of them, and they were able to discover that the mage had been meeting up with the carter to discuss what appeared to be a trade in lyrium dust. Now, lyrium dust is a refined version of lyrium, which mages and Templars use for casting their spells, or much higher spells that they can't do with their own natural ability. But lyrium is highly addictive, and the trade is the trade from Orzammar is highly regulated by the Chantry. So therefore, having it smuggled is a very big deal on the black market. So after this, they return to the Lawmaster and reveal what they've found. The Lawmaster is quite beside herself, and she implores them to explore further. So Mervic decides to impersonate a new Carter dwarf and infiltrate the Carter. Using notes that they found from the body of the Carter they killed, they set up a plan to implant Mervic into the Carter. Ram decides to pretend that he is a prisoner. So he decides to snap off one of his horns and put on a pair of fake manacles, and Mervic is to lead him into a warehouse which was found on a note to prove to himself that he is a badass and that I can get you what you want, basically. In the meantime, Magnus and Lamb were going to be finding their way into the warehouse another way, and they were going to surround the dwarves and subdue them. From this, if I recall correctly, Lamb decided to dress herself up as a lady of the night and to stalk around the warehouse, getting a few looks, and one from one of the seedier inn owners, old Crony, who was also one of the town's alchemists. She provided her with a rather obscure potion for the morning after. Think of that what you will. So the meeting goes ahead, and Mervic takes Ram inside and tries to negotiate. It's a little bit shaky, but they make progress, while Lamb and Magnus, despite Magnus's size, they're able to sneak in through a high window on the other side of the warehouse and make their way through the boxes. Eventually this turns into another enormous skirmish. I actually had to get some miniatures out to sort this one out, where things crashed around, where the party subdued these Carter and tried to gather as much information as they could out of the leader, although the leader obviously wasn't talking, but they discovered a continued shipment of lyrium dust, so now this was definitely a much bigger deal than what they thought. Returning to the Lawmaster, they gave the information over, and are informed that the Lawmaster have found that the remaining Carter in the town, following the attack on their leader, had fled to a nearby Tig, and that the Lawmaster's guards were now on guard in the entrance, and the Lawmaster offered an additional reward for them to go and investigate the Tig. It was at this point that everyone returned to the inn, and they informed Cassandra. Cassandra could not wait any longer, so she actually left the party at this point, and that was where we ended the session. So so that's where we've gotten up to right now in Dragon Age. It's really, really getting interesting. And in our next session, I'm actually planning to use Zoom now to record the sessions, so it will be a little bit longer than expected. So I hope that you enjoyed this little brief introduction to the to what I've done with the game so far. We'll see where it rolls on to next time, and and you will also see all of the hilarious antics that Lamb, Ram, Mervic, and Magnus get up to, and the reason why I call myself the Demented DM, because some of the stuff they get up to really makes you rip your hair out. Not that I'm getting much left. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe in the links below. I will put the links to the Baron, to the images that I've used to help you potentially improve your own roleplay experience. And I will hopefully get back to you soon with some more content, and you will be able to see where this adventure goes. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Ta-ta!